Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your presence to another installment of our speaking series here at Cañada College. Funds have been provided by the district foundation. So we have to, give a shout out to them and their support. And so we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. We have a very special guest this evening, Ahmad Walker.
Yes, thank you.
Prepping for this, I've seen some of his work and I'm just like, oh, wow, very impressive. Personally, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
and I know those in the audience have, some questions. We do have some digital art and design students here or who are majors here at Cañada College. So they're stoked to see you here. Actually, I had, to see some of the work that he's done for actually a campus, which is pretty impressive. so Ahmad, so what do you currently do now?
I'm a stop motion animator and artist, and currently I'm a teacher as well, but my focus has been on creating stop motion animation and just other forms of artwork like print miniatures and other things like that, like collectibles. But I think I've been really narrowing it down to producing more stop motion.
So we're gonna talk about that stop motion, we're gonna get more into that later on because we want to see how you got to stop motion. Let's see, my personal experience watching stop motion, and correct me if I'm wrong, because they had this show called Davy and Goliath, the kid and his dog. I think that was stop motion. Gummy and Pokey, stop motion. And I don't know, you might be too young for this, but I would say the most recent large syndicate, it was in the 90s, stop motion at Fox. It was done by Eddie Murphy called the PJs.
Oh yeah, the PJs. Oh man, I used to record. It's funny. My parents recorded the PJs on VHS for me and my brother. But yeah, I got PJs is a classic. Yeah, PJs. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, was that stop motion?
Yeah, Gumby. It's a lot of new classes out there though too. Coraline is a good new class. Yeah, Coraline.
I forgot about
newest classic.
You know what? I forgot. Stop motion.
Yeah.
So the PJs, it's funny. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the PJs. You guys probably were.
I don't know.
So it was in 1995, 96. Eddie Murphy did the series. It was pertaining to the lifestyle of those living in the projects in New York. And it was, I think, 1 or 2 seasons on Fox. And what essentially happened was people were kind of upset because of the content. It really didn't help the reputation of the projects in New York City. And then once it was done, you never seen it anymore unless you bought these VHSs at a garage sale. It's like, what is this? But they did, I want to say, one of the streaming networks, you can now watch the PJs. So,
it's on Hulu.
Okay, yeah. So Hulu, like I said, one of the streaming. And you go back and you watch it. I go back and watch it and I look at some of the dialogues. There's some lines from that stop motion that I remember. And I was just like, And I went back and I watched it. I was like, yeah, I can see why people were upset.
So how many of y'all are familiar with the Boondocks?
Oh, yeah.
So the PJs was the Boondocks before the Boondocks. The PJs was the crazy thing about it. The PJs is actually Disney's only adult animation. It's under ABC, which is like a sister company of Disney. So the PJs, Eddie Murphy, the only adult animation that Disney has ever produced. That's just a fun fact about Disney.
You said adult animation. So
as far as just cuss words, mature language, kind of anything above TV 14.
Oh,
It's considered-
animation.
Yeah, in
style.
animation, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
so anything above TV 14 is considered like viewer discretion advised. You have to
Okay.
give kind of like TV ratings after that about like which category they fit in. Like, you know, like when the movie comes out, it's PG or PG-13, TV 7 and things like that. So it's like different categories that certain animation falls under. But the PJs was just like the Boondocks,
And it was produced by Disney.
Yeah. So the PJs was produced by Disney and the only, kind of like raunchy comedy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't necessarily consider it raunchy, but yeah, they had some, poignant
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was there.
themes in there.
It
I
was
was just
there.
like, oh, wow,
Yeah,
okay.
it was definitely there.
Yeah, and of course, Eddie Murphy. I thought it was like one of the funniest things out there. And I was surprised that some episodes actually made it on Fox.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now let's get to how you got to that point. I mean, stop motion. Man, why did you choose that? Let's get to that. Education. Was there something that influenced you when you were,
Yeah,
young?
so I was in 7th grade and I was just at an after school program, just goofing off with my friends. And I was a really good artist at the time. So it's movie day, we're all watching, I think Street Fighters was on and he got pizza and my friends were bringing me different DVD cases and they're just like, oh, draw this, draw this, draw this. And I'm like drawing them. And then the teacher comes up to me and he's like, oh, you're really good. You should come by next week, and I just kind of thought like, I was so good that I was like, whatever, like I ain't about to come. And he's like, nah, come by next week. And he showed me his portfolio. Like he pulled out his sketchbook and I'm like, whoa. like I thought I was doing something. Like when he put out the sketchbook, I was blown away. And he was like, come by next week, And then so I came back and he was an animator and I didn't know. And he was just pretty much showed me the ins and outs of animation in the 7th grade. Kind of took me under his wing through the after school program. We created a movie together. It was like all stick figures, but he showed me the basics of like breaking down a character, really character development, the different action poses you want to see him in, storyboard and the whole, just from start to finish, title cards, everything, just getting all my concepts out. He really showed me all of those things in the 7th grade. And yeah, I had an animation in the 7th grade and I had no idea the technology. I just knew it was on paper and you're supposed to trace. So I still got stacks of paper to this day in like boxes tucked in the garage of like old animations that I will probably never see in motion, but I just kept going with the animation. And then just kind of got into creating my own characters. Then a lot of different other people's IPs came a part of my life. Like I started drawing things like the Boondocks. I started drawing things like Marvel. So I just started incorporating a lot of different other styles into what I was creating. And then by the time I graduated high school, I had developed my own characters. So I was drawing different characters like dinosaurs, mummies. I was pretty much inspiring myself to create new classic characters through what I was seeing on the streets through graffiti and things like that. And at first I was going to go to college for fashion because I was really into like clothing designs and things like that. That's kind of how I got my name, Elf World Studios. It came from it being Elf, which was like ELF was the acronym for Everyone Looks Fresh. But it started off as a joke because I was like the shortest one in the group. So Elf turned into like Everyone Looks Fresh. Then I started doing animation and then I was inspired by Disney World and then inspired by Universal Studios. So I mashed all those things together and it became Elf World Studios. So then I went to college for 2D animation and just like fell in love with it all over again. Like fell in love with the process all over again. And then I stopped to fall in love with the process when I started getting on the computer and a lot of 3D classes, like just 3D sculpting was a pain for me, and then I got assigned assignment to create an old form of art of animation, and it was rotoscoping. I was just trying to remember the name of it. I think it's called a kaleidoscope, where you kind of spin it and different images pass by at a rapid pace to create movement. And then there was claymation. So I did my first claymation project, and maybe like, and seems like a long time. Yeah, so I did that, and then it just made sense. You know, I was looking for tutors for 3D animation and things like that, and wasn't kind of catching it. But when I started sculpting and moving the animation in my face, and everything was right in front of me, it just made so much more sense. I wasn't strained, you know, and I had to have everything literally sit right in front of me. So I went on the information quest to figure out what I needed to do to pivot from leaning into 2D and 3D to fully immersing myself in stop motion, because the physics of stop motion is different from the 2D world, you know?
Right. So, go.
So are you talking about the work that you're using for stop motion is considered in our reality, not like three-dimensional digital interfaces?
Yeah, so everything is literally like you can look upon it, you can touch it. There are certain elements of stop motion that require 3D, but it's usually by choice. You know, like if you want to create like a more depth, or sculpting like chairs or something like that to print out. So you can use it for props, but it works better when everything is right in front of your face. Digitally composing for stop motion just works best for backgrounds and things like that, but and things that you just can't, that maybe take up too much detail or too much space to actually create in front of you.
Thanks for sharing.
All good.
So let's go back to this after school program. And this movie that you made with this teacher, I'm assuming.
Yeah, his name was Reggie.
Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie, right. Sounds like a made up name. Yeah, he's a real guy. He's a real guy.
My name is Rance Bobo.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, I'm real too, you know, but you read it's like,
Yeah.
what? So whatever happened with the movie, did it?
Oh, I got it. He only made like 3. So it was it's crazy. So it was me, it was Reggie, and it was another student, John Blazer. It was John, I'm gonna call him John B. But yeah, it was me and him, and there was I had an ice character and he had a fire character. And the fire and ice character were fighting. So his character came out like a flame, and then my character dropped up out of like a bucket of water out the sky, and then the bucket like splashed, and then like he came out of the bucket.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you know, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool movie. But yeah, I still have it. Hopefully it's gonna be, you know, worth something.
How long is the movie?
It's only about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only about 30
Yeah,
seconds.
because I know, I mean, personally, I'm not a digital art design type of person. But I have learned how long
Sorry.
it takes. Like it takes an hour or something to make a second of, what is that? Pixar type of stuff or something
Yeah.
like that. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait, an hour equivalates to 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, so
The math was like, my mind was blown at how long it took to make just so little.
yeah, so the math on animation period is okay, so shooting on ones is 24 frames a second. So for every second you see of good animation, so I'll say good animation, things like Akira, most anime, most TV anime is shot on ones when it's like action sequences, but other TV animation is shot on 2s. So shooting on ones is 24 drawings every second that you see, and then shooting on 2s is 12 drawings for every second that you see. So you can actually cut the time down by just doubling the drawings, you know, so movies like Snow White, Aladdin, pretty much all the Disney animated classics are all shot on ones, but everything that you see on like Disney TV are all shot on like twos, and there's like all like flash animation.
So you said 24
Yeah,
drawings.
24 drawings for every second, or you can cut it down in half and cut it in half to 12 drawings for every second. So when I go in to take a shoot, let's just say like I want to have this cup move across the table or something like that, right? You know, I can take the fast approach where it's like, depending on how fast it's moving, it's also depending on how many pictures I'm taking. So something moving fast has less pictures in the middle, but
Right.
it still has to ease in, ease out. So I won't like just shoot it across the thing. I'll take a picture, and then I'll move it a little bit more, take a picture, then move it halfway, take a picture, and then I'll ease it across the screen. But if you know, I'm making it move in slow motion, then I'm like,
All right.
you
so
know,
it takes it-
like,
okay.
you know, like super touch and go. And it's the same with like actual drawings. So whenever I actually go to animate something, I take at least 300 pictures. In order to even have, I have to take at least 300, you know, bare minimum 100, but at least 300 pictures in order to even have something to like look at, you know.
Man, I guess why it took me like 10 years to release the second Incredibles or whatever. it was.
Yeah, no, the guy who made Wallace and Gromit,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he took 3 years to make the first episode. If the animation company Artman didn't pick him up, he'd have took another 6 to make the second episode. Yeah,
I mean, episode or movie?
I mean,
Because
it was both. So
they made a
the
movie
first,
of that.
the first, yeah. So they made a movie after they picked him up, but
Oh,
the
man.
first one was it was Wallace oh man, I think it was like Wallace's Day Off or something like that, where they went to the moon for some cheese, and it was only like 10 minutes.
And that's the British
Yeah,
guy with the little
yeah,
dog.
with the dog. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Took them like 3 years, but then they picked him up, and then that's when they made more movies, and then you know the Shaun of the Sheeps. What's another good art one? Early Man. That's a good another art one.
I think Tyler, the Creator, made a stop motion. You
Oh,
seen
the
that?
music video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh yeah, you also had one on Loader Squad. Yeah.
So, what made you want to stop? I mean, stop. What made you want to pick up stop motion? Because when I finally seen how stop motion was created, I was just like, why does someone want to do this?
Yeah. It's not being done anymore. Like I like 2D. I like 3D, but yeah, like nobody's doing stop motion. Like, there's so many stories that can be told in that art form that aren't. And just how you were saying, like the only reference or representation we have is the PJs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
so there's not too much positive representation across the board when it comes to just storytelling for, you know, Black and brown people in general, you know? So I think choosing a lesser art, like an art form that is slowly being forgotten about, you know, I think choosing something like that and then bringing that into the future with new stories and new creativity for people that are being forgotten about, that are actively, you know, people are trying to forget about. I think it just yeah, I think it just made sense, and it was just so like original. Yeah, I just think it was that, like I wasn't seeing it, and I just wanted it to be done. So yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
cool.
I think that's what it was.
You're right, because I was thinking like, you know, what was the last major stop motion, you know?
Mhm.
And then my next question is, you mentioned claymation. How's that different? Because I mean, or claymation
Okay.
is stop motion.
Yeah. So they are the same thing, right? But
Okay.
stop motion is pretty much making anything inanimate move. So that's stop motion in its whole thing, but claymation is specifically using clay characters, you know, and as a material.
Right.
So you can do stop motion and claymation because you'll have characters that aren't fully clay,
Mhm.
or you'll have characters that are fully clay. So it just varies, but it's the same thing, just different materials pretty much. So it's only turns into claymation when you're using clay.
I got it.
But other than that, it's all stop motion. It's all, yeah.
The filming sequence is the same.
Yeah, the process of doing it is all the same.
Okay. Wow. And so to make a 10-minute movie, how much time in the stop motion? Because claymation, I mean, it seems like you gotta refigure the, you know,
Yeah, it's
the character, you know, I mean.
it's some preparedness that comes along with claymation versus stop motion. Depending on the types of characters that you do create. So if your character is all clay, then you'll find yourself remoting as you animate. But let's just say the mouth or something of your character is just clay. Then you're just animating the mouth. And you know, if the head is like a hard clay, you're not necessarily re-sculpting the head as you animate, you're just putting the different mouth shapes on. But that's the only reason why I would say claymation becomes a lot more tedious, is because depending on how you build your characters, you'll definitely find yourself like smoothing, taking a picture, moving your character, smoothing it, taking it, like, you know, so that's the part that gets tedious. But when you have an actual like hard character like most stop motions do now, they don't really use clay, they use a lot of silicone. So a lot of the stop motion where you see clay, it's silicone molds where they'll sculpt it out of clay and they'll make it in silicone. And when they pull the silicone out, it still looks like clay, like Chicken Run, you know, like
Right.
it looks like clay, but it's actually all silicone,
Ooh.
you know? So the mouths are clay and things like that, but the body and everything, things that they consistently move is usually silicone built up with foam and wire skeletons under, and, you know, it's like a whole actual human body, like, you know, like down to the skeleton under most of the armatures.
Okay, that's good to know, because I was thinking, yeah, Chicken Run, I was just like, I mean, that looked like it was claymation.
Yeah.
But you said only the parts that really move.
Yeah, they use a lot of silicone and clay mouths.
And it took them, I think, almost like 15 years before they came out with part 2 or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was just like,
Yeah,
okay.
it's like they were planning the second Chicken Run after the first one. And it took even longer because the technology has grown so like tremendously from even when I was first interested in it, you know, 10 years ago. So it's like After Effects, you know, I started when I first started doing this, I was editing on an iMovie, which is like crazy, you know. So it's like now After Effects and all these different systems, they got Dragon Frame where now you can literally just set up your laptop with the camera, and your camera is getting fed to your laptop so you can directly see what you're taking pictures of. So yeah, the technology has grown a lot better. So
And so I'm assuming it can allow you to speed your work.
yeah, it can. So a 10-minute movie, I think it really just depends on how much action, creativity, detail you want to add to it. I did maybe like a 5-minute video in like 6 months, and that was with a lot of back and forth from the person that was commissioning me to do it, and it turned out really good. But I think the hardest part that takes the most time is building out the world. You know, since it is all in front of us, everything needs to be holdable, tangible. You know, if the person is picking up a cup, you know, like even this set right here, right? Like if we were just stop motion characters, I have to make this table, you know, I got to make the cup, I got to make the water bottle, you know, I got to sculpt a little iPad, you know, like I got to get the TVs on the wall, you know, and if I'm really going for detail now, I'm adding in the smaller things now, you know. So I think the longest part about stop motion is building out the world. After you have the world built out, it's like it's free roam. you can just start making stuff, but that's why a lot of stop motion you see is either done on green screen or blue screen, because you can just digitally compose it. And that kind of ties back to what Bro was saying about just mixing in 3D elements with real life elements. But yeah, it can take anywhere from like 6 months to a year with good communication and fast paced working. But I think personal projects, they get a little bit more drug out because they're personal, and it's hard to put a cap on your own creativity and just be like, this is the scene,
Right. I guess it was Grummet and Wallace, so you saying it.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. 6 months for 5 minutes. So then let me ask you this question, because that's just you by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just take that same project you were working on. Within 6 months, if you had a full team, I mean, which I don't understand what a full team is.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people would that entail? And then with that 6 months shrink down to 2 or 3 with the same project.
Yeah, no, I get excited when I think about having like a team of artists around me. Only because it would like drastically, I think for me, what a team usually looks like, I think for an animator, it's crafters. Like, one, you gotta kind of be good at crafting. Like you like, making miniatures and things like that. That's a plus, whenever you're thinking about stop motion. And then an animator. So if you understand the actual physics of 2D animation, it's usually easy to apply basic movements to stop motion in 2D. Like you can't make things fly in stop motion the same way you would in 2D. But I think 2 animators, somebody who likes to sew, somebody who likes to craft, yeah, maybe a group of like anywhere between like 3 to 7 people would be like a really good collective of people to drive. Honestly think not just me, but I think any stop motion, any animated collective or creative team forward. But yeah, it would definitely cut my time down to like good 2.
Okay.
Yeah, good 2. I think, yeah, a good 2.
So you say 2, so that 5-minute project would be 4 months.
Yeah, I could cut it down. I can do a 5-minute project in maybe like 2 months with 7 people.
Wow, still that is a.
Yeah, no, it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
I'm still saying
Yeah,
2
no,
months
it's still a good
for
stretch.
5 minutes.
Yeah, it's still a good stretch.
I understand why, things are so expensive because the time that goes into that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
As I think about it, like, wow, that's impressive. And I mean, you really loved your craft
Yeah.
to just like, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think a part of animation too is like you also have to be an actor. So it's like you can't be scared to act. So it's like if your character is like throwing a ball, and you're like, okay, like let me get up and try to throw a ball real quick. See how it looks, like,
Right.
So there's been so many times where I'm like trying to like coordinate a fight scene, and I'm like, I'm like in my room, like, oh, like, okay, and I'm gonna throw a punch, try to move around, and so it's like a lot of that happens. So it's like, I'm sure a lot of us are fans of like Avatar and The Last Airbender. A lot of that is reference animation. So references is gonna be, it's the key to just drawing from not only just real life, but just being able to recreate people or scenarios or angles. It's just being able to have the right reference, like a lot of the Avatar, The Last Airbender was all actual fighting, like those were real martial arts moves. Like they hired karate masters, martial arts masters to come and show these guys how to do these moves. So they look real and they can flow on camera, and they just went on and drew them almost verbatim for some scenes, So yeah, good references.
Okay, so you're referring to the cartoon, the animated version.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like and that kind of like the 2D side of like having good references, they kind of lean towards more like rotoscoping, which is tracing over live footage. That's what rotoscoping is. But it gets tedious. So when you have good references, it cuts your time in half drastically. That's really what I'm getting to, is like when you have a good reference of what you want to animate, animating doesn't become a longer task than it needs to be because you have something to actually look at and just go for it.
Mm. Okay. Question.
Yeah.
You talked about, like how many pictures you might have to take and things. I'm just like, your skill set sounds amazing.
Thank you.
So could you just like share a little bit of like, what are the different skills that you've had to develop in order to sort of like own your craft?
Patience.
I was gonna say that. I was just like, he said your skills. I was like,
that was
patience is great.
That was the first one. But just a sense of craftsmanship. So when you're doing stop motion, there's a skeleton. You have to like twist these wires. So the wire is actually the skeleton. So there's a series of wires that run through the body of the character. So just twisting those wires and puffing the foam. So I think the hardest thing that I learned so far was teaching myself how to sew. So it's like having these characters and then sewing clothes on them, and becoming somewhat of like a stylist in a way, because it's like you can't dress everybody the same. So it's like you're thinking like, okay, this person's gonna have, black jeans, white shirt, this person's gonna have white shirt, blue jeans, So now it's like now you got to like picking out fabrics and stuff. So I think that's one of the hardest things I taught myself was sewing and just kind of leaning back more towards that craftsmanship, because just like you have to make rigs to make certain things fly. So I think the patience to learn and not being afraid to just go through a lot of trial and error with what you're trying to accomplish with certain shots.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I'm curious, cause I'm like taking some sewing. What was the hardest part for you? Like
For sewing?
personally, it was just figuring out how to get the thread into the machine. And after that, it's like.
Yeah. See, that's a tough one. So with stop motion, I do a lot of hand sewing. So, because the characters are so small, once you pin the clothes on them, it's like you can't really run it under a sewing machine. You can piece things together. So I might run a sleeve under the sewing machine and a pant leg under the sewing machine. But once it's all done, I have to actually put them on the character and piece it together. But just actually like threading the needle. That's the one, like if I could just pin the clothes together and just give it to somebody to sew, that would be like, that would be ideal. Cause I don't necessarily like sewing, but I've enjoyed fashion over my like time alive. So I just gotta like swallow the pill and kind of do it. But I don't imitate. That was one thing that kind of really saved me a bunch of time. It was just I figured out, like I can just cut it, hem and tape, and just so that saved a bunch of time. Yeah.
What I learned in clay and ceramics, if you working in clay like claymation, you said some piece have to be adjusted in clay, but do you have to worry about, do you have to spray it constantly to avoid getting like dry or
That's a good question. I actually looked that up the other day to reaffirm that I was even doing it right. So it's called plastina. It's plastina clay, Van Atkins. So there's certain clays that just don't dry. So you have to get an oil-based clay, and then there's baking clay, and then baking clay is good because it doesn't dry until you bake it. So I use a lot of baking clay and I just don't bake it. But when I need to make something that's hard, like if I can sculpt the head and bake it, and then use the lips for soft clay, so the lips can be moving, but the head can be solid. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. Air dry clay is the worst. Yeah, air dry clay is the worst for animation. Oil base is the best. Baking clay is, it's second best. Just don't bake it. And the thing about baking clay is it doesn't go through really good temperature change. That's one thing that I've also noticed. It can get really cold in my studio sometimes, and I'll come back out and now everything's fragile, right? Or it can get really hot in the studio, and when I come out, everything's a little bit too malleable, So it's like, but with the oil-based clay, the worst thing you have to worry about is like, it's sitting too long and you may be having to mash the oil back into it or something like that, like oil separating from itself. Yeah.
Do you know of any spray-on clays?
No.
Oh, they got like, I guess it's like the insulation things. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, like insulation foam. Yeah.
I just realized that it's like something similar.
Some of those are good if you have molds. So depending on how you're making, like for mold making and stuff, those might be good. But as far as like building out a stop motion character, spray foam doesn't really work that well. They have polyurethane foam, but it starts off as like a liquid. Then you got to pour it into the mold. Then you got like dec acid, which is like you got to get like a gas chamber that like turns. It's a process for something. And then they got other stuff where it's like you can literally just use the silicone. It's an A and B mixture. Pour it in, boom, and it's just how I talked to you about how things look like they're clay, but they're not. Where it just takes the shape of whatever you've made. But the hardest part about those is painting it. So you got to get like a special type of paint to paint the silicone. But yeah.
So for the plastina
Yeah.
clay, is that one that you can have like the wire skeletons inside?
Yes.
Or is that one you have to, it's just purely the clay?
You can put a wire skeleton in almost all of them, but the plastina is, that's the one that you want to use for motion. So plastina is good for motion. You can, run a wire under it. Air dry, no, you don't want to put a wire under that because once the temperature changes and you move something, that's one thing. That's baking clay, you'll find yourself reworking if you're trying to use it for actual motion, other than like mouth movements, which is like really, small things, but you don't want to use too much baking clay for big movements.
So has your work been used in anything commercial yet or in mainstream, whether it's, in any media?
Yeah. So the music video, I did a music video, the project that took me 6 months to finish. It was a country music video, and it did pretty well. And I recently just did a commission for SFMTA, which is the San Francisco Municipal Transit Agency for the city. So they're putting up like speed cameras in the city. So they reached out to me to create a commercial to promote the speed cameras coming to the city. And that was like one of the commercial gigs I got. So it's on SFMTA's website. It's like an actual thing for the city, commissioned by the city. So that's probably like one of the biggest things that I have out right now that's actually, not personal, but very actual commercial.
Yeah, someone wrote you a check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the country was,
Yeah, the country music video was, I was just found that, they have this event down in my studio space called Open Studios where they just open, a bunch of artists open the doors. So my studio space is called Shipyard, Artists for Trust. And it's an old military building and it's gutted out, that has all artists in it now. So the whole building, it's like a school. It's like, imagine like somebody just gutted out an old middle school or elementary school. And every classroom is like a studio now. So every season, artists in the building open their doors and just open to the public. And people can walk in, buy stuff off of people's walls. So if this was somebody's studio, they'd have all art sitting around and get a chance to talk to them and figure out how they make their art and just pretty much be in the artist space. She came into my studio and seen that I was a stop motion animator. And, like people's eyes kind of like light up, when they see it actually in person, like the characters. And she commissioned me to do a music video and it just kind of took off from there, got the ball rolling. And yeah.
Is the video out yet?
Yeah, the video's out. It's called Cousins Web Santa Ana. Yeah, so you guys can check it out.
Yes,
It's
please.
good.
That's what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
It's called Santa Ana, Cousins Web.
So Cousins Web's artist.
Yeah, Cousins Web's the artist and Santa Ana's the song.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you want to see my own personal work, I do the show. You could just El4O Studios all the way through. But I do a show called The Adventures of Brothers and Bear. And it's kind of like my play on Rick and Morty, So yeah, and I'm kind of like in the developmental stages of it, but I've been doing it for some time. It's been really fun. It's super experimental because like a lot of stop motion is trial and error. And I'm using it as like a stepstone to kind of like really build my skills and understand stop motion a lot more than I do now. So
what's the end goal? I mean, to have a feature film stop motion movie or short series, 5 episodes? I don't.
We bigger than Disney. I'm honestly thinking bigger than Disney for real. A lot more commissions. I've just been putting together. So I have a ton of show ideas.
Okay.
Right, I got a ton of show ideas, and I think I just been putting together the rollout for them, the pitch for them, and slowly finding the team. Like you mentioned, I wanna cut my my output time down. That's what it's about. When I think when we're getting into this thing as creators, especially as artists and animators and things like that, is like reducing the output time without reducing quality.
Mm-hmm.
Still being able to produce a high quality product or animation or entertainment, something that we are actually happy about, that we didn't like, do anything, mediocre or do anything with any mediocrity, So being able to have a good team of artists around me to expand these ideas. But I think that's kind of my end goal, is being able to actually build out more industry for stop motion in the Bay Area, and actually kind of champion myself and the people around me to create what is out there, but for ourselves. So it's like, everybody has streaming services and things like that, but it's like, how often do you see creatives actually teaming up to put their own things on streaming services? Like you got to meet 100 people to get in a room with somebody from Netflix, somebody from Disney. You have to meet a bunch of people, but if you can get in the right room with the right people, you don't need to meet 100. You just need to meet like 5. So going from trying to be on, let's just say, Amazon, to getting together with a group of like-minded individuals and starting your own platform and service and finding other people who are in other groups of 5 that are looking to get their things out there. You know, there's a whole world full of content. There's just no curators for the content, you know, because all the main curators are big business.
Mhm.
Disney's a curator, Netflix a curator, Hulu's a curator. These are all curators of content. So until I think the average person becomes a curator and you start curating your friends' content into one place to where now people can laugh, they can cry, they can listen to music all in the same place, just how they would an actual channel. I think that's kind of my goal, is to like be able to create my own channel from actual artists that aren't just looking for, I guess, the name of like, aren't looking for like the big name, but the actual impact.
Have you ever seen an upload button on a site like Hulu?
You said, you know what's so crazy? So they just stopped this. Amazon used to. They used to have a thing on Amazon where you can upload your own content. So they actually had this. I want to say they stopped it in like 22. But yeah, like you used to be able to put your own movie and everything like that straight on Amazon Prime.
No,
They cut it off in like 2022, right when I was getting started. So that's the only reason I know, because I really wanted to do that. And so now it's like, now you need a lawyer to even get in the room with Netflix. But
and then it's like once you click upload, submit, it's like then what, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
yes.
you don't even see.
yeah, so the wave now is Tubi. So Tubi is a wave, and there's another one. Oh man, my people just sent it to me. I think it's called like Movie Picks or something like that. But there's another one that he's working on a documentary that he's trying to, streamline out there. But I think now we are in the age of brand building and building up your audience. So
It's like, how does a 0 follower account grow without anything but an upload?
just marketing. You got like, with 0 followers, it's not like nobody's watching. It's just like nobody's dedicated to watching yet, right? So you got to give them a reason to actually watch with good ads, motion.
Trust, I guess, right?
That's what I mean about the brand building side. It's like now somebody who has 100,000 followers, right? They're in a really good position to push themselves, in the sense of, out of that 100,000, maybe even 5,000 are dedicated to what they're creating. So I think, and it's not necessarily about who follows you, it's just about interest, because everybody's interested in something, they just haven't necessarily seen you yet, like. So if you were starting from 0, I think the best thing that you can do is just meet people. Like the first few people that you meet is just like, just meet people, keep good relationships, and can produce good work. I think a good name goes farther sometimes. A good name and a good personality, don't be a jerk. That's always a plus,
You a people person?
Yeah. You got a question?
What do you think the reason why Amazon Prime stopped having that uploading feature stopped in 2002? It's because some bad content leaked on there.
No, I can't say it's necessarily like due to bad content. Because they I'm sure all of these places have really tight screening, depending on how, like I was mentioning earlier, the ratings, the TV7, TV14, so I'm pretty sure based off that, they have really good screening processes. But I think it ties back into viewership, you know? So how many eyes can you bring toward your project? I think was one of the things as well, was you can upload your movie, but you have to create, like, how many new subscribers can you bring to Amazon with your movie? You know, so I think that's the thing now is, and I think a lot of, like, that was one of the reasons why the actor strike was so big that happened a couple years ago, was because the, you know, streaming and the movies were changing. You know, so box office hits weren't necessarily box office hits, they were Netflix hits. You know, so a movie being released on Netflix is different from a movie being released at AMC. And I think that was one of the reasons why they kind of stopped all the programs, is because the payout, the viewership, and the incentive, you know, like big companies need an incentive. So like I said, if you got 100,000 followers and you're making like really good animation, you don't necessarily need, you don't need Netflix. You just need a really good direct to consumer process, you know? So I think that's what I meant by brand building and just portfolio building, is we're just in an age of not necessarily needing big names, but we're in the age of making yourself a big name.
Yeah. Everyone knows Phillipsburg,
Yeah,
you know, it's more of the name,
yeah, exactly. And
yeah. So then we're gonna just shift gears real quick too, because, you know, we're gonna get back to the art part,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because
yeah,
we see you brought this here. Also you did something for Cañada.
yes.
So if you guys got a sticker from GSU, he did this for the campus. How did this come to?
They had, so they had a bunch of ideas. I pretty much just jumped on a Zoom call with them. Had a bunch of
So they
ideas.
reached out to you?
Yeah. And they had I just like, I hear people out. Whenever somebody comes to me with a commission, hear them out fully, you know, write everything down. Don't say no. Like whenever you're going over a commission, don't say no. Don't be like, I can't do that. You know, just literally take everything in, you know. So they're throwing, you know, civil rights leaders at me, they're throwing symbols at me, and I'm just writing it all down. And you know, I sat on it for a minute, and then I'm starting to think like, okay, clubs, schools, this, that. I didn't want to be too generic. And then, you know, the more I start talking to people in the group, the more I figured out like, oh, you guys are all Harry Potter fans. You know, so that's kind of what I was like, oh, it needs to be a crest. Like, let's think about a school crest, you know, like Gryffindor, you know, Hufflepuff. So I was like, oh, like let's do a crest. And they all was like, yes, let's do a crest. So I'm like, okay. So I went back in again. Now, what do you guys want in different corners? So now I'm looking at symbols again. I'm taking in everybody's account on what they would want in different parts. Like, oh, we want the flag in this corner. We want this symbol in that corner. We want this in that corner. And I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, just hit the drawing board. And another thing about, I guess, commissions or sketchings is just never settle on your first one. You know, like your first drawing is just your first drawing. Just like work through it, because that was like maybe like the third or fourth one, you know. Like I went through so many different styles of shields that I could have used and like that I didn't. And yeah, so somewhere around like the fourth or fifth sketch, you know, that's where you start to really like, okay, I'm starting to feel this. But draw your first one, pull something, apply it from the second one. Draw your second one, pull something, apply it to your third one. Draw your third one, pull something, apply it to your fourth one. So keep pulling, you know, keep pulling from the previous drawing to add it to another drawing. But yeah, they just kept going, and once I mentioned the Harry Potter crest thing, they all were like, yes. And just stuck to it, went there and was like, all right, drew a couple different ones, and they were like, that's the one, you know. That's another thing, give your client options. So you might like the fourth one, but you'd be surprised that the person that you're talking to like the top one. Number one, you're like, what? You know, like I drew this really nice beat maker, like this beat machine. It was so crazy. It was like it had the buttons. It was like crazy. And then the dude who I sent it to was like, I just take the piano, and it was like just a regular. It was like a regular piano. I'm like, what? Like man, like this beat machine is crazy. Like you make beats, like, you know?
Piano.
Yeah, he was like, I just take the piano, and I'm like, all right, you know.
I mean,
Yeah.
when I look at this, I can't, I was just like, I see the crest. I mean, I've never seen any, first and foremost, BSU logo like this, ever,
Thank you.
all the years. So that's pretty cool. And I saw the crest and I was like, oh, that's different, you know? And that's creative.
Yeah.
I mean, so now, yeah, that was pretty slick. Listening to and what you found, what they had in common to make this, because I would never put Harry Potter to this.
Yeah. So another thing too is just I wanted it to be able to be around when the people who commissioned me to do it aren't around.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like finding a balance between like making something timeless.
Wait, you said you wanted it to be around when the people who commissioned you, aren't. Like, or like
Exactly.
weren't.
Yeah.
or
So
eventually will leave.
even when the people who originally called me to do this design aren't at this school anymore, I wanted that to still be able to be at this school. So I didn't want it to not only just represent the people in that group, I wanted to like, you know, like try to think another generation or two, you know,
Right.
try to make something a little bit more timeless, a little bit more like,
Classic.
exactly. Just like polo,
Sure.
you know, like just something like that, like a polo emblem, something that it just sticks with you.
Like you save this design in your back burner in your brain. So hopefully they would leave and you do this design on your free time.
Yep. So hopefully they keep it around and in the next 20 years, you know.
I would feel they
Hopefully,
will be.
yeah, hopefully it's still around in the next like, you know, even 5 years or something like, you know, so.
So then let's get to this, because I mean, this is,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I mean, how would you explain this? Someone just go ahead and pick it up so folks
Yeah.
on camera can see what we're talking about. Let's go ahead and throw it in the middle. Sorry, put it in the middle. All right. You know what? We'll have to move that too.
Back.
There we go. So folks online can see what we got going on here.
Oh, bro, we can't see that. I don't know if they can see that.
Yeah, you know, I was trying to get the folks on the camera to see it, but.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm so smart.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, now that I moved it. So now we gotta move it further back, I guess, so the folks in the back row can see it. Now, can you guys see it?
Yeah, a little bit better than.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I missed that.
So there's gonna be a lot going on with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the different stairs.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
So where I got this from, so this is one of the things where I talked about the sketching, right? Just like, I drew this up just to sketch. It was on just like it's maybe like this big on a piece of paper, you know, like the regular, maybe like a 5x8 piece of paper. And the original thought was like the man who's always thinking, like the mind. That's what the piece is called. It's titled The Mind. But it turned into a blend of abstract and like realism. So I don't really do too many abstract pieces, but whenever I do abstract work, I always feel like it's a bit of a self-portrait. because I just never really get into abstract work. But it just kind of came to me in the sense of I've always been a fan of the optical illusion stairs and how they were drawn. That's always been a thing. The light bulb, you know, which is the mind. I'm always thinking. The gears, which is one of those things where I felt like my mind is always turning. There's always something like I'm always thinking about something. And then the gear in turn is turning into a brain, you know, and then the pyramids for the nose. Just a bunch of different symbols, you know, as far as like you know, coming from Africa. And then the yin yang symbol directly in the middle, balancing the moon and the sun. You know, so it's like
Wait. Is that a taiguk in the center of the yin yang?
no, it's sun and the moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then the hourglass, you know, just cause everybody has time, but everybody's not on the same time, you know? And time is like, it's a tricky one. Yeah, it's like time is persistent. Time is both persistent and patient, you know? So it's moving, but it's not moving, you know? So it's like, it's persistent, it's continuously, but it's also patient. I mean, it also waits, but it also doesn't wait. So that was kind of my thing about it. And of course, the planets, I'm really obsessed with astrology, astronomy, you know. I got it from my grandfather. He always used to keep like universe maps up. Like when I was a kid, like I just like going in the bathroom and just like stars all over the wall. Like, you know, like he had telescopes when I was younger. So I've always had a thing with outer space, period. And then going to lead to the gorilla. It was it's like that King Kong consciousness where it's like I'm the best, I'm the greatest. Just the whole kind of like that kind of like apex predator thing, you know, like that king of the jungle, you know, type of vibe. Like, so that's where I was going with. And the Thunderbolt, it's something that I'm catching on to now. Like I like the Thunderbolt because I started using it for, you know, me and my siblings' brand Almighty. And it's like, yeah, like Almighty, you know, like just kind of like what it sounds like, you know, like we were made in the image of Almighty, and then like the Thunderbolt, which is like related to Zeus, you know, so it's kind of like a different play on that. So I put the Thunderbolt in his hand just to kind of play on the whole Almighty Zeus thing. And just the power that we all have as people and humans and just as spiritual beings. And of course, the gold fangs, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist the gold fangs. And then a cousin of mine came over the house. I was almost done and this was empty. Like I had a lady right here and he sat with me for maybe like 15 minutes and was just like, oh, you should make that Nefertiti. Like he was just sitting in front of it, just how we are now. He was like, "Oh, you should make that Nefertiti," and I'm just like, for real? He like, yeah. He like, you know, it's just something about it. Like I don't like. I know you're gonna put a lady, and he was like, but I don't want people to look at it and think like, manhandling or things like that. He was like, because I know that's not where you're going. He was like, but it's something there that I feel like you doing right. But he like, don't do that though. Like don't just paint a lady. He like you got something there. You should do something. Like he was like paint Nefertiti, and I did. So you know, it's always just not being scared to take others' opinions and actually apply it. You know, because I have done it and regretted it before. But it's like you know, you have to take into account the artistic opinions around you that you respect, and you know, lean, you know, take it into account and be like, I'm gonna do it because my cousin, he's not an artist, but he thinks like, you know, he's a conspiracy theorist. So it's like, you know, it works. It works. So, you know, that's just not being scared to take people's advice, you know, on certain things, certain colors. yeah, and just applying it with what you know.
That's pretty cool. I mean, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, this looks like several album covers from different genres
Thank you,
put together.
thank you.
So, yeah, I was thinking like
Yeah.
maybe something like this is me, a Pink Floyd type of situation
Oh, okay,
mixed with Parliament
yeah.
type of
Oh, okay,
put together, and I was just
that's
like,
dope. I like that.
I was like,
I like
"Ooh,
that.
looked like
Yeah, I am
mashup
getting a little
of
bit of like the Earth, Wind and Fire vibe.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So I was like, I see
Yeah.
some genre mixed with the album cover like stacked up on each other.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, I think whenever I think about like abstract art, I'm always like I'm never trying to come too close to Basquiat. Like everybody has this thing where they like when they go abstract, they go like full Basquiat. You know, like full like crayon type drawing where it's like completely abstract, like like they just kind of let it flow. But I don't never try to take it there. I always try to find a balance between what you were talking about, like somewhere between Earth, Wind and Fire and the Harlem Renaissance.
Okay.
Like, and if people like if you haven't looked up Earth, Wind and Fire case, you probably should. It's really, really, really crazy. And then if you haven't seen Harlem Renaissance art, it's also very colorful and very crazy. So this is kind of like where I try to mash those two together between like the Harlem Renaissance and like that, that vibe of like that, abstract, colorful, something to look at.
Yeah, it is. Well, Ahmad, thank you for coming out, sharing your, the work that you're doing. I mean, your inspiration. You said you're a teacher too, right?
Yeah, I teach kids. I teach little kids at elementary school.
Okay, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, the influence of teachers, what got you here?
Yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so, I mean, with us, working in education, all the very important, inspirational, and we appreciate the art and we appreciate your patience. So, yeah, so we're going to close it out with you. Thank you. That's funny because, see how long we stop.